Good morning, John Q. This is the United States of Amnesia, broadcasting today as every day from somewhere between memory and forgetfulness. Today's headline: You reap what you sow. Yesterday was President Trump's 80th birthday, which he intended to celebrate with a Thunderbird flyover and a cage fight on the White House lawn. My lawn. Not his lawn, the people's lawn. And as far as I know, nobody asked us for permission. Then again, nobody asked our permission when he decided to pave over the Rose Garden or tear down the East Wing to build his gold-plated ballroom. But I transgress. Now, I have some thoughts about yesterday's cage fight. Some angry thoughts. But rather than burden you with mine, I thought I'd seek the counsel of someone far wiser than me. So today, just for fun, I'm going to channel the spirit of Will Rogers and ask him to put in his 2 cents. Now, before I attempt to channel Will Rogers, a brief disclaimer. For those of you who've heard him before or fancy yourselves experts on the Oklahoma accents, I ask for a little grace. If my imitation falls a little short, kindly blame me. If the wisdom falls a little short, kindly blame Will. With that said, Mr. Rogers, the microphone is yours. Much obliged, JQ. My pleasure. Now, when I was alive, 2 cents would at least buy a couple of pretzel sticks at the local 5 and dime. Today, I don't think it would even buy the salt. Now, when I was called up yonder, Franklin D. Roosevelt was sitting in the Oval Office. And there was a fellow who couldn't walk across the room without help, and yet somehow managed to carry a whole country on his back as he prepared it for war. Funny thing, from what I see from up there, turns out we eventually won that war he was getting us ready for. Which leaves me a little puzzled. Because every day when I look down, your man in charge seems to be declaring victory over the same war. 39 by my last count. Pretty soon, there are so many victories floating around, you start wondering if anybody remembers what one actually looks like. Now, maybe I'm old-fashioned, but back when I came from, victory meant the other fellow knew he lost. Nowadays, it seems to me, everybody claims they won and then changes the subject before anybody asks a question. But like you, JQ, I transgress. As for that cage fight, I have to confess I'm even more puzzled. When I held the stage, prisoners mostly spent their time trying to put a chicken in the pot, hold the country together, and convince the American people tomorrow could be a little better than today. Now, from where I'm sitting, this fella seems to be in a different line of work entirely. The way he's going, I half expect him to start selling reserved seats in heaven. Or in his case, maybe the other place. And just when I figure we've reached the limit, somebody tells me he's put up a $5 million gold-plated green card for sale. $5 million. Well, hell, son, in my daddy's day, that would have gotten you most of the way to buying Alaska. and enough good press to keep that fellow milking the golden calf for another 4 years. Now maybe that's progress. I don't know. What worries me isn't the selling. Americans have always been good at selling things. What worries me is that nobody seems entirely sure anymore where the salesmanship ends and the governing begins. And like you said, JQ, the White House was always called the People's House. Looking down from where I'm now, it appears somebody has converted at least part of it into a gift shop. Now, I don't mean that as a criticism. I mean it as an observation. Americans have always loved a good show. Lord knows I made a living of giving them one. What worries me is that we may have become unable to tell the difference between a show and a government. The cage fight doesn't bother me nearly as much as the applause, because the cage fight is just an event, but the applause, hell, the applause means consent. And when the crowd cheers loudly enough, even the most extraordinary things begin to look ordinary. That's how nations drift. Not all at once, not because one man orders it, but because people slowly become accustomed to things they once would have found unthinkable, even obscene, like a cage fight on the White House lawn. A living president lobbying to put his face on a greenback. A government that behaves like entertainment, and entertainment that behaves like government. And eventually, nobody remembers where one ends and the other begins. Now, maybe that's harmless. Maybe it's just good old fun. Maybe it's all just another show. But history has a way of sending the bill long after the audience has gone home. Which brings me to the only thing I know for certain. Sooner or later, every harvest arrives. Farmers know it, ranchers know it, history knows it, even lovers know it. You reap what you sow. And every nation eventually must eat from the field it planted. The question isn't whether the harvest is coming. The question is whether we still remember what seeds we planted in the ground. Thank you, Will. Appreciate your take on number 45's birthday bash. My pleasure, JQ. But before you send me packing back to the clouds, let me leave you with one more thought. How do you put it? Oh yeah, a word to the wise. Be careful that eating crow doesn't replace apple pie as our national dish. You got that, Will. And on that note, truth is virtue, amnesia a sin. Remember.